Meditation experience includes those described in the oral instructions of great meditators. First, let us begin with the textual tradition, which explains meditation in terms of the 5 faults that can cause meditation to go wrong, and the 8 ways to eliminate them. The 5 faults. When meditating, one must recognize which experiences arise from meditation and which faults need to be eliminated. There are 5 faults that must be removed by applying 8 antidotes. These 5 faults or defects prevent the development of meditation. Meditation is the practice of cultivating stability and concentration of the mind. Asanga discussed these 5 faults in the teachings of Maitreya in distinguishing the middle from the extremes. This text says that if the mind can rest on an object, it becomes workable and stable, allowing us to direct it as we wish. In contrast, our normal mind is like a wild horse. When riding a wild horse, we cannot stay in one spot, nor can we go where we want to go. But when the mind becomes tame and workable, we can use it as we wish, such as cultivating wisdom and understanding. If we need miraculous powers and clairvoyance, we can also develop them. How wonderful it is to have meditative concentration. With it, one can attain whatever extraordinary abilities one yearns for. By eliminating the 5 meditation faults, we can obtain a workable mind. In this way, the mind becomes obedient, like a wild horse that has been tamed. It will do whatever you direct it to do, and refrain from what you forbid. It becomes meek, no longer running wild or difficult to control. The first fault is laziness. Laziness prevents the application of meditation because after receiving meditation instructions, one doesn't even begin practicing. Such individuals are lazy and unwilling to meditate. Upon seeing the meditation cushion, they want to run away. There are 3 types of laziness. The first is lethargy, in which one is not interested in doing anything except sleeping. Such individuals are apathetic and addicted to sleep. The second is attachment to worldly activities, which results in no desire for dharma practice or meditation. Such people cannot or don't want to sit still. They prefer to stay busy, absorbed in the 8 worldly concerns. Instead, one devotes oneself to secular activities such as hunting animals, lying, and deceiving others. These are activities one enjoys, is accustomed to, or frequently thinks about. In a sense, one has diligence, but it obstructs dharma practice. This is also called attachment to negative activities. The third is despondency and self-accusation, which arises from thoughts such as, others can meditate, but I can't. Others can understand the Dharma, but I can't. Due to poor health or heavy karmic obstacles, one feels inferior, frustrated, and unable to sit still. Since they cannot sit still, they slack off. For those who cannot sit still, meditation is even more essential. Even if you only sit for 10 or 20 minutes per session, it is beneficial, and gradually the duration will increase. If you don't meditate, you'll never be able to. The fact is that all beings are capable of meditating and practicing the Dharma. Look at the turtle. It can lie still in our room for months without coming out. In our Dharma Centre, there is a turtle named Dharma Turtle who has been here for at least 4 years. It often enters meditative absorption and now rarely comes out. Once, it crawled under a monk's bed, and that day the monk felt different, experiencing luminosity and swiftly entering concentration. Later, he found the turtle was under his bed. He had received its blessing and could enter meditation quickly. The turtle in our Dharma Centre is so special. You may have seen it. It is not afraid of anyone. When it comes out, it walks around and looks at newcomers. When it doesn't like someone, it recites a Dharma protector mantra. It moves with its head raised, fearless of anyone. When you feed it, it eats. I have never seen a turtle like this before. Even the animals in our Dharma Centre are special. So, we should not underestimate our capabilities. This is what is meant by not repudiating ourselves. We have just discussed 3 types of laziness: lethargy, attachment to worldly activities, despondency and self-accusation. All 3 can lead to laziness, leaving no time for meditation and causing drowsiness as soon as one sits. Such drowsiness arises because one is not sitting properly. We must sit upright and activate mindfulness. Sit upright and your mindfulness will immediately become different. When you sit with a bent back, the mind becomes dull and drowsy. The second fault is forgetting the instructions, which reflects a lack of mindfulness on how to meditate correctly. While meditating, one should be very clear about what one is doing, what faults to eliminate, and what remedies to apply. Hence, remembering the meditation instructions is essential. Those who forget the instructions cannot identify where they have gone wrong. The third fault is the obstacle of drowsiness and agitation. This fault arises during meditation. These 2 obstacles are classified as a single fault. In drowsiness, the mind is cloudy and dull. In significant drowsiness, the mind loses its clarity. In slight drowsiness, the mind has some clarity, but it is quite weak. Agitation can also be divided into 2 types, significant and slight. In significant agitation, one keeps thinking about what one has done or what fun one has had, making it impossible to rest the mind on anything. In slight agitation, one has apparent stability of mind, but subtle thoughts still keep arising. So, these 2 kinds of drowsiness and 2 kinds of agitation can cause the mind to lose clarity and stability, and thus become obstacles to meditation. This is something we should be aware of. Meditation is so beneficial and fascinating, yet few people engage in it. Among worldly activities, nothing is more interesting than practicing meditation. Other activities are of no avail, merely pointless actions performed with a wandering mind. Even practicing worldly meditation can yield the 5 supernatural powers, enabling one to travel between heaven and earth, flying like Liu Dongbin. How fascinating! Which is more interesting, holding power or flying freely between heaven and earth? However, as the dream of the Red Chamber says, everyone knows it's wonderful to be an immortal, but they just can't forget their spouses and children. They cannot and do not want to let go of their attachments. When I was 20, a freshman in university, I found meditation captivating. I could enter meditative concentration quickly. Being young made a difference. My mind was simple and innocent, without much distraction. I could enter concentration easily. At that time, I had not studied wisdom, watched many movies, or experienced much of the mundane world. Practicing meditation in youth was swift. Before studying the Dharma, one can focus solely on concentration, making it easy to practice. After learning the Dharma, however, it becomes more complex, with many teachings to listen to, reflect on, and practice. Thus, practicing at meditative concentration becomes more difficult. There are many qualities to cultivate, such as generosity, moral discipline, patience, and diligence. Those who practice Qigong, by contrast, have fewer concerns. They just practice Qigong. Thus, they can easily enter meditative absorption and attain supernatural powers. However, they are prone to being harassed by demons. So, wisdom is essential. The fourth fault is under-application, which occurs when drowsiness or agitation arises during meditation, and one recognizes them but doesn't apply a remedy. One is aware of one's problems but doesn't correct them promptly. If one doesn't use the remedy, meditation will not develop. The fifth fault is over-application. For example, when drowsiness or agitation arises during meditation, one applies a remedy, and the drowsiness or agitation is eliminated. Yet, one continues to apply the remedy, even though it is no longer necessary. This is the fault of over-application. The remedies should be used only when drowsiness or agitation appears. After the faults have been eliminated, one should simply rest in equanimity. At that point, there is no need for antidotes. For example, when the mind is no longer distracted, why continue counting breaths? When the breath has already faded away, why keep watching it? After entering the first dhyana, there is little need to watch the breath. At that stage, the practice is not watching, but being aware, and the awareness becomes more subtle. There is no need to exert as much effort as before. Just gently maintain awareness. Later, one can turn to look at the mind. This is how antidotes work. When the mind is not scattered, there is no need to count breaths. Do not overuse antidotes. Otherwise, you cannot enter deep concentration. Although drowsiness and agitation have their own characteristics, their effect as obstacles to meditation is the same. Hence, they can be regarded as one fault. According to this system, there are 5 faults in total. If drowsiness and agitation are counted separately, however, there are 6 faults. This is the system used by Kamalashila in the stages of meditation.